attendance with us this evening. Let's begin our city council meeting. I'll call the city council meeting to order for August 2nd, 2022. It is 6:31 p.m. August 2nd already. And I'd ask you all to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, however you see fit or are able to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. City Clerk, can we have a roll call vote? Or not, probably shouldn't be voting yet, but how about a roll call of the city council members present?
Cumby.
Here.
Gabriel.
Here.
Harrington.
Here.
O'Doherty.
Here.
Schmeckel.
Here.
Schuster.
Here.
Somerville.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
And Weaver.
Here.
That is 9 present and 0 absent, Your Honor.
All council members are present. Thank you, City Clerk. Let's see if we have any public comment on non-agenda items this evening. Public comment on non-agenda items. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Item number 5, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I move that the following changes to the agenda be approved. We have 4 changes to our agenda this evening. The first 2 changes are going to be on the consent agenda. On item 9O, we are adding a, hang on a minute, let me get there. On August 9th, we are adding a special meeting. And on August 30th, we are adding a special meeting. And then we're going to be adding 2 items to our regular agenda. They're going to be items 15A and 15B. 15A is going to be a reconsideration of a postponement of original ordinance number 2048, vacating approximately a 2,900 or 29,500 square foot area of right away on Lewis Street between 14th and 15th Street. And then item 15B is going to be that particular ordinance, original ordinance number 2048, vacating approximately 29,500 square feet of right away on Lewis Street between 14th Street and 15th Street.
I'll second.
Motion and a second from Councilmember O'Doherty. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand to vote.
Aye.
We have item number 6, proclamations, public hearings, and notifications next.
I think I need to do 5B.
Oh, thank you. Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you.
We voted on a motion that you hadn't yet made, Vice Mayor. So let's go ahead and have you make that motion, then we'll vote again. I apologize.
I move that the agenda be set as changed.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Raise your
Aye.
hand. I think there was a pause, and then there was a second, and then we voted on something, and then, oh, well, we're ready to go now, and that takes us into item number 6. And for item number 6, under proclamations, public hearings, and notifications, we have a proclamation, and Councilmember O'Doherty volunteered to read that for us. Councilmember O'Doherty, thank you.
whereas licensed professional engineers are dedicated to applying scientific knowledge, mathematics, and ingenuity to develop solutions for technical, societal, and commercial problems while holding paramount the public health, safety, and welfare. And whereas Wyoming licensed professional engineers have made significant contributions on a local and national scale, whereas in 1907, Wyoming was the first state to enact laws regarding the licensure of professional engineers. And whereas Wyoming's economy has grown and will continue to prosper because its licensed professional engineers are instrumental to our state. And whereas August 2nd, 2022 has been declared Professional Engineers Day by the National Society of Professional Engineers, an organization founded in 1934 that represents the interests of more than 26,000 licensed professional engineers and those on the path to licensure, who show the highest level of dedication to their profession in all 50 states and U.S. territories. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, acting for Mayor Paul Weaver and the President of our governing body of the City of Laramie, Wyoming, do hereby proclaim August 3rd, 2022 as Professional Engineers Day in the City of Laramie and call upon all citizens to join us in this special observance.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Doherty. You learn something new every day. I had no idea the state of Wyoming was the first to require licensure of engineers. That seems somewhat out of alignment with other aspects of the state's view on professional licensure. To be the first, but that is quite a fact. And I see we've got Mr. Winkler here with us. Welcome. Are you here?
Thank you.
Make a little statement to the council with this item.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Just a clarification, I do know that we had a couple of dates in there. I apologize for that date. It is August 3rd that we recognize as the Engineers Day in Wyoming. And I wanted to take a minute just to kind of thank the community that we have. We work with our engineers throughout the community all on a daily basis in our office, and we have a great relationship with all of them, and they have definitely a lot of knowledge around our community. I want to take a few minutes. I know that I wanted to introduce, we have one of our newer engineers on the call with us for the engineering office. It's Zeb Coulter. And if Zeb, you can turn your video on. This is Mr. Coulter. We might hear from him a little bit later.
Thank you.
Yep. And then City Clerk, I know that we have a couple of people in the attendees. I saw Dr. Mukai is on, and he had his hand raised a minute ago. And then I know that I saw also Joe Lord, another member of our community that's prominent in our engineering groups and stuff. We have a group called Laramie Engineers Club that we did notify and let people know that this was going to happen. So if you don't mind, let me have Mr. Mukai say any words that he might want to say for it.
Please.
So on behalf of the College of Engineering and Applied Science, I would like to thank you for this proclamation. It's our pleasure to serve the state of Wyoming and the city of Laramie, and we really appreciate the recognition. And hey, Zeb, good to see you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your being here with us. Mr. Coulter,
Mayor, that's all I had on this item. So
I was going to give Mr. Coulter a chance to say something if he wanted to.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Being a Wyoming native, been out in the Army for the last 10 years doing as an Army engineer officer, and have enjoyed that. But I'm just grateful to be back and working for the great state of Wyoming and the great city of Laramie. So thank you for having me, and I'm proud to be on the staff.
Thank you very much, and thanks for being here with us. Appreciate that. All right. Yeah, we'd be in a tough spot without engineers. A lot of important work gets done through that department, and of course, in many more areas. We have a public hearing this evening, And that's the next item on our agenda. I'm going to ask the city clerk to give an announcement for the public hearing.
Okay, notice is hereby given that on the 11th day of July, 2022, an application was received in the office of the city clerk for a new special malt beverage permit, liquor license number special 8 for Roxy's Catering LLC, doing business as Roxy's Catering, located at 1000 East University Avenue, the UW football stadium, excluding the Wildcatter, Laramie, Wyoming, for a licensing term of August 15th, 2022 through May 7th, 2023. Public hearing to hear comments or protests relative to this license application will be held Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Action on this application will be considered at the regular meeting of the City Council on Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. All information relative to this matter is available for review at the City of Laramie City Clerk's office at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present or may be represented by his or her agent at the meeting.
Public comment period for this public hearing is open. Anybody wishing to speak to this issue can do so now. There will also be a second opportunity when the item comes before us as an item on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Proceed to the next item on our agenda. Announcements. City Manager, do we have any announcements?
Mayor and Council, we do not have any announcements tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, disclosures by city council members. Are there any city council members that wish to disclose anything on any of the items coming before the council on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 8, Vice Mayor Pierce.
Yeah, Mayor, so before I go ahead with this, I think via email we've been instructed that we've procedurally made a bit of a mistake regarding items 15A, B, and now a C. So item 15A needs to actually be a motion to reconsider, period. So we have to reconsider the postponement. Okay, so that's going to be 15A. 15B will then be an actual change if we decide to postpone or not. And then C, a new C, 15C, will be the actual item if we get that far. Does that make sense? Procedurally, Ryan, help me out here. Do I need to go back, or do you think we're good? Or it's been a little bit of an email exchange with the city attorney. So help me out here in terms of what I need to do. Oh, or nothing at all. And I just go to item 8.
I think what we're doing is we're adding another procedural step, which is we're gonna have the motion to reconsider, and then we need to hold another vote on the postponement, and then we can proceed to the main motion. I don't think, Vice Mayor, in my view, that we need to add an additional item, because it's simply we'll just proceed to the vote, and we can explain that, I think, with Councilmember Schuster. When the item comes, we'll need you to sort of outline the steps for us, which I'm sure you're able to do, just so that it's clear, and then we can proceed to those 2 votes. Unless council members object, in which case let's have that discussion now. So we're adding yet another procedural step, which is to re-vote on the postponement. Does anybody feel like we need to do any additional action at this point on that? I think
So
it'll be clear when we get to it. Yes, Vice Mayor.
So let me say that one more time. I believe we have to first consider the topic of the postponement. Then the next step is to actually potentially vote on the postponement. And then if it gets reconsidered and if the postponement changes, then we get to step number 3. So if we're all good with that, and we're all good with the changes that I made, then I'll just go ahead and move to item 8, which is strictly related to the consent agenda, having nothing to do with the regular agenda.
I think we're clear, and I think it probably was worth covering the topic again, but
So
we're in okay shape. So Vice Mayor,
So we're-
proceed. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're looking at a potential of 3 votes on 15 ABC if we make it that far. Okay.
And let's clarify that the first 2 votes on the motion of 15A will require a majority vote to even get us to the 3rd step. Councilmember Schuster, do you have a question on this topic?
Yes. So the first 2 votes will be first to reconsider bringing it back on the floor. The second vote will be to open it for discussion, because I believe the first 2 votes, we can't really discuss anything, just a motion to be able to discuss it again. Would that be a correct statement? Maybe I need the city attorney to jump in here again.
I think I can help you, Councilmember Schuster. You're right in a roundabout way. So we have to affirmatively say as a council by majority vote, yeah, we're willing to bring it back up. Now we have to have a vote on whether or not we want to rescind the reconsideration, and then we get to the discussion itself.
I will muddle my way through it the best of my ability.
Understood. I think that's all that any of us could do. Vice Mayor, thank you very much. I know you're waiting for a motion to make your own motion still.
Yeah, so this has to do with the consent agenda. For folks out there listening, we're on item number 8 on the consent agenda. I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Motion to second from Councilmember Somerville. City Clerk, can we have a roll call vote?
Cumby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
and Weaver.
Yes.
That is 9 yeses and 0 no.
That motion carries. Good. Takes us to the regular agenda, item number 10. First item on the regular agenda is item number 11. I'll turn it over to Councilmember Schmeckel.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to award the professional services agreement for the street PCI evaluation and system implementation to IMS Infrastructure Management Services of Tempe, Arizona, in the amount of $225,000 plus a contingency of $24,000 for a total amount not to exceed $249,000, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
And a second, Councilmember O'Doherty. Mr. Webb. Welcome back.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. This professional services agreement is to update our pavement condition index, or PCI as we commonly call it, and to update our pavement management plan. Our current software system has been used since 1988, and our last PCI evaluation was completed in 2019. The current paver software and the method that we used to use for PCI measurement is very outdated. A modern system includes laser camera arrays that automatically collect road condition data, and it imports the data to the software as a collection vehicle drives down the roadway. If you've ever seen the Google trucks as they drive around with all the cameras and stuff on them, similar to that. This automated technology replaces the old subjective nature of PCI data collection and analysis with proven accuracy and repeatability. This project will provide a complete and updated PCI evaluation, along with ensuring all the historical PCI data and all future data are transferred into one system in ArcGIS. In addition to the PCI survey, this scope of work includes the pavement management plan, non-destructive structural pavement testing, a sidewalk inventory, and an ADA ramp inventory. A request for qualifications was issued and proposals were provided by 2 firms on July 7th, 2022. A review committee of 5 staff members reviewed both proposals and interviewed both firms. The selection committee recommends IMS Infrastructure Management Services, LP, be awarded the contract. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Questions for Mr. Webb on PCI, long-awaited PCI. See if there's any questions from the public. Oh, wait, Vice Mayor Pierce. And then I'll go to you, Councilmember O'Doherty. First, Vice Mayor Pierce.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I don't actually have a question. I just want to thank our Public Works Department for getting this project rolling. I think most of us on council are really excited about this, and we'll be really pleased when we get those results. So really looking forward to it, and thanks so much.
Councilmember O'Doherty.
I don't need to add anything. Thank you.
Let's see if there's any public comment about it. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Council, anything else? Further questions or comments? I'll just make a quick comment, which is that I agree with everything the Vice Mayor said. I think we need to it's good to see this moving forward. Although my excitement, I would say it's more of an issue of anxiety to hear about how the condition of the infrastructure across the city is, but knowing is better than not knowing. And the last time I think we received a condition index assessment, was it 2 years ago, Mr. Webb, or has it been longer?
2019.
All right. Councilmember O'Doherty, changed your mind.
Now, I have a comment, and that is that I heard recently that it was bad streets that allowed the French Revolution to start. So I understand the mayor's anxiety, but I think the fact that we're doing something about it by getting objective data might keep people from throwing parts of the street at us. Thank you.
When I was a kid, I used to watch a dumb cartoon, and at the end of that cartoon, they always had a little public service message at the end of it, and it said, knowing is half the battle. So I guess knowing is better than not knowing. So we're looking forward to getting the information. Mr. Webb.
Yeah, Mayor, one thing I forgot to add was that part of this scope of work will include a work session with the company. So once they've compiled all the information and put the plan together, we'll get a work session scheduled. It'll be after the new year, and they can walk through the plan with you and the data and the results of the evaluation.
I appreciate that additional piece of information. I think that's really important. And I would also share this. This information is what helps us set our priorities for repairs. Is that right, Mr. Webb? I see you nodding along there. I don't need you to confirm that because I just happen to know that from experience, but this is what guides our repair schedule, and every council member here has at least had a conversation, if not multiple conversations, and had an email or a call or two about street conditions, why things get repaired on the schedule that they do. This is what guides that process. This is what determines that. So I imagine it probably is of interest to the public. So I hope that we do get some attendance at these meetings on this topic, and some involvement when we have that work session, so we can get that information. This is one of those pieces of information that we would like to push out to people to improve their understanding so they know what's going on. Councilmember Shoes.
Thank you very much. Two things, and I hate to say it, I'm having a terrible time hearing you, Mayor Weaver. The other thing is, will this company be advised on the streets that we have scheduled for, I'm going to use the word replacement, so that they don't list a street that we're doing next year? That's my only comment on that, that I hope they are informed of what we are trying to do for ourselves too.
Mr. Webb, if you want to try to answer that question, hopefully I've fixed my microphone.
Thank you. Much better.
Yeah, Councilor Schuster, through you, Mayor, absolutely. The company will be provided our capital plan so they know what we're planning on in the future.
All right, good. I know it is one of these things that we've been waiting to hear about because, you know, it's one of the things that the public notices and we all notice as on a regular basis. And I think that information will be useful for people to help us understand how we make these determinations and the help that we get. So we're looking forward to that. Mr. Webb, when were you looking at that work session? Did you give us a date?
Yeah, Mayor, it'll be after the first of the year. I think what we're planning on right now is the company's going to get out here pretty quick and get the evaluation rolling. And then in December, they should have the information to staff for review, and then hopefully be back to you January, February. But we're trying to get it expedited on our end so that we can use that information while looking at the budget, kind of before the budget period next year. So we should have the information in December for review, and then hopefully to you January, February.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. City Clerk, can we have a roll call vote?
Somerville,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Harrington, looks like
Yes.
he's absent. I think that was a yes.
I think it was yes.
Okay. Gabriel,
Yes.
Cumby,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
and Weaver. Okay, that is 9 yeses and 0 no, Your Honor.
Takes us to item number 12. That will be Councilmember Harrington, unless he needs someone else to read the motion.
And also, members of council, thanks for your patience. I move the council approve the submission and ratification of a grant agreement for FAA's Airport Improvement Program by Laramie Regional Airport for expansion of snow removal equipment building phase 1 design in the amount of $242,880 and authorize the mayor and city attorney to sign.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second from Councilmember Schuster, and I see we've been joined by Chief Operating Officer Millie Brown. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This item is coming forth from the Airport Improvement Plan. It was scheduled to be done. It's the first phase of our ARF building. We're going to have to do another bay in our ARF. In order to be in compliance because we bought a piece of big snow removal equipment last year, and it's part of that grant that you have to store it in a secured location so the equipment doesn't get damaged. So we're now in the second phase of this project and just in the design. And so that's what this grant's about. The airport is required to do a 10% match on the design.
Thank you very much. Any questions on this topic? Emily, I have a quick question, which is just this. I know there's been a lot of construction activity out there over the last couple of years, and was this building something that was considered earlier, to the best of your knowledge, about a future location for this, or is this something that's...
This was already on the improvement plan before any of us board members were there. So the equipment was already purchased. It got delivered in 22. I think when Amy did her presentation, she showed you that huge piece of equipment in her presentation. And so because it's required to have a building, we're just doing a new bay in our ARF building. So we're to just accommodate the storage of the equipment.
Thank you. Answers my question. Council members, any questions? Councilmember O'Doherty?
I thought we should spell out what ARF stands for.
Please. It's Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting Building.
Thank you.
Maybe there ought to be an M in there, maintenance, but yeah, we get it. All right, and I appreciate your answer to that question too. It's just going to be, it was factored into the construction of existing buildings out there, and it just needs to be an expansion so that we can house the snow plow. All right, let's see if there's any public comment. Thank you, Malia. Let's see if there's any public comment on the item. Seeing none, council, back to you for final comments, questions, if there are any. Seeing none, I'll go to the city clerk for a roll call vote.
Gabriel,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Cumby,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
and Weaver.
Yes,
That is 9 yeses and 0 no, Your Honor.
that motion carries. Thank you, city clerk. Thank you, council, and we'll go to the next item, item number 13. Councilmember Gabriel.
Thanks, Mayor. Title is the new special malt beverage permit to Roxy's Catering at the University of Wyoming Football Stadium, excluding Wildcatter. I would move that the City Council approve the application for the special malt beverage permit, special number 8, to Roxy's Catering LLC, doing business as Roxy's Catering, location of permit, University of Wyoming Football Stadium, excluding Wildcatter, Laramie, Wyoming, for the licensing term August 15th of 2022 through May 7th of 2023. Authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion is second from Vice Mayor Pierce. Questions or comments? City Clerk, anything to add to this permitting?
Just a quick note that Cowboy State Brewing held this license previously, and with the legislative changes in 2021, it allows an LLC to hold more than just one license. So Roxy's Catering, who also holds the license for the AA, is now just simplifying the process and the contracts with UW to hold the license for this football stadium as one. So that's just kind of what they're going for with this license.
Comments from the public. Yeah, we've got a public comment from Brandon Newman. Let's let Mr. Newman in. Mr. Newman, when you see your screen name up there, you have the floor.
Mayor, I don't have a comment on this specific, but I can hardly hear you.
I see. It seems to be some people are having some trouble hearing me. I'll just try to hold the microphone.
Thank you for your time, though.
Yep. Any other comments? Questions on the item? Seeing none. City Clerk, can you hear me?
Yep.
Let's have a roll call vote.
Okay. Schuster,
Yes.
Harrington,
No.
Cumby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Somerville,
No.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Pierce,
No.
and Weaver.
No.
That is 5 yeses and 4 no, Your Honor.
That motion carries. Takes us now to item number 14 on the agenda. Which will be introduced by Councilmember Cumby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Title, Resolution 2022-49, setting the liquor license master fee schedule to include commercial service airports. I move that council approve Resolution 2022-49, setting the liquor license master fee schedule as indicated in Attachment A, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second by Councilmember Schuster. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution is to go hand in hand with the ordinance that you just passed tonight. It is to set a fee for the new license for the airport. Since it is similar to a regular retail license, the clerk's office has decided to set the fee at $1,500. And I'm also here for any other questions.
Thank you. Any questions? City Clerk, that brings this license fee right in line with the rest that exists at this time, correct?
Correct.
See if there's any public comment. Oh, Councilmember O'Doherty, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a question. Does this mean that they could have a liquor store out there since it's a retail liquor license?
City Clerk, go ahead.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
In fact, Councilmember O'Doherty, it means they could cater the University of Wyoming football and basketball games, although I don't think that's likely. Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you very much. Served a couple of terms on the airport board, and I asked this last time because I was just curiosity, because the airport has a park out there, a business park, and I plain just straight asked it. So if somebody wanted to, could they build a liquor store / restaurant, maybe airport with a lounge out there, or a motel hotel with a lounge out there? And the answer was yes, as long as it's on airport property. So I thought, wow, this just opens up a huge, huge door, because it seems like we have such a fight over liquor licenses. Anytime one's available, We now have one. It's kind of crazy, but we now have one.
Thank you, Councilmember Schuster. I think that's a comment worth hearing, and I'd like to make a comment about how I support efforts that are being led by other cities to reform and restructure the liquor license laws in the state of Wyoming. Some people that are involved in that effort, including some of our, I'll call them colleagues at the city council over in Cheyenne, have begun to view this as an impediment to economic development and business growth, and I think they're on the right track, and I'd encourage those same changes to be made. Any other comments or questions about this item? Seeing none, City Clerk, I'll go to you for a roll call vote.
Okay. Cumby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
and Weaver.
Yes.
That is 9 yeses and 0 no, Your Honor.
That motion carries. Thank you very much, City Clerk and members of the council. I'll take this to item number 15, Councilmember O'Doherty.
I move to approve Laramie's City Council, I move to approve original ordinance 2041, amending Laramie Municipal Code, Chapter 10.32 that's it, bicycles, to update language to reflect current device uses on second reading. That was read really well.
Second.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Somerville on the motion. Assistant City Manager Feaser, welcome.
Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, Mayor. I had to get through all the points of the day to get there. Thanks for listening to this. We actually missed the original postponement date, which should have been the last meeting in July. And strictly due to my workload, I haven't been able to get to this just yet, but it's getting closer to the top of the schedule. And we hope to be back in front of council with the second and final readings of this as we can get there. So we're requesting postponement once again.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager, and I think the council fully understands, and we're happy to accommodate that. Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I just want to clarify, I did not second that motion. I'm not sure who that was, but that wasn't me.
All right, let's
Thanks.
get the record to reflect the second. It was Councilmember Cumby, and that's my error, and I apologize. Seconded by Councilmember Cumby. Any other questions or comments on this item? Yes, Councilmember O'Doherty.
I'd like to move to postpone the second reading of original ordinance 2041 to September 20th, 2022.
Second.
Second again from Councilmember Cumby. Council, you've heard the staff report on this item. Any other questions or comments? Let's see if there's any public comment to this effect, to that effect. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Council, anything else from you? Assistant City Manager Feaser, my understanding was that the need for the additional time was so that we could run this through our city processes, have it go to the Traffic Commission, and then take some time to incorporate their feedback and any additional input we might receive from members of the public and so forth. So I think it's more than fine to take the appropriate amount of time and give the staff time to get all of those things incorporated into this as we update the bicycle pedestrian laws. So we'll look forward to it when it's ready.
Thank you, Mayor.
City Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Cumby,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
and Weaver.
Yes.
That is 9 yeses and 0 no.
And that motion carries. Thank you, City Clerk and City Council. Brings us to item number 15A, Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you. It seemed like we were having such a good flowing meeting, and now I come along to mess it up. I move that we reconsider ordinance number 2048.
Motion to reconsider. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilmember O'Doherty. Councilmember Schuster.
Okay, here we go again. I move that we...
Councilmember Schuster, we'll have to have a vote on that. I wanted to know.
I'm sorry. You're correct.
I wanted to know if you wanted to provide any additional information for the discussion before we open it up to other council members.
I don't know if we legally can. I think all we can do right now is reconsider it. So if it gets approved, then yes, I will provide information on why I'm doing this.
Thank you. And I can't ever remember if motions to reconsider are debatable. City Clerk can check that for us. I believe they are. They are. So, Councilmember Schuster, I'll ask you again. Did you want to provide any additional information?
Yes, I will. It's been brought to my attention that everything the University of Wyoming is doing is legal. They have crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's. Do I like it? No, I do not, because as soon as I got the letter today, I called 2 school teachers I know that teach there. They know nothing about any of this. So I don't want to sound like a terrible person, but I have what's called ethical and what's legal. And everything they are doing is legal. And that's why I brought this back up, because I don't want someone to say, well, everything they did is legal. Why didn't you approve it? And that's my whole thing on this is I'm not happy about it, but I know what's legal and what's not legal. So I'm bringing it back. If it passes, it passes, but I will vote legally on this.
Thank you. Other comments on this? Councilmember Harrington.
Thank you, Mayor. I generally support any council member's interest in reconsidering a previous vote. I am curious, after the last comment, was the legality in question, I missed the last meeting, but was legality in question at the last reading of this ordinance?
No, it was personal opinion.
Yeah, I see council members shaking their heads, and I don't recall that being an element of the discussion. I think the concerns, if I can interject as council members, were around, the concerns were around issues of practicality and impact, not legality. Vice Mayor Pierce.
Yeah, so help me out. And maybe this is for the city attorney. You know, is a postponement an illegal action? Yeah, so.
City attorney.
Well, right now, this is a motion to reconsider. The postponement was done properly. So now you're being asked to reconsider the postponement. If you vote for reconsideration, then that motion to postpone till, I don't remember the date, sometime in September, is back on the floor. And then you will deal with that motion. You will, you'll do whatever you do, but that motion is amendable, debate, whatever you do with that motion. So no, legality is not an issue. You've been following proper procedures.
Thank you, City Attorney. Council, the way I see it, we have a choice, which is to either debate and discuss the merits of reconsideration now or on the second motion, but either way it's going to happen. I just as soon get it done out of the way now. Does anyone have any further comment or discussion about the merits of the reconsideration? Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. In the spirit of just trying to get the discussion out of the way, I echo Councilor Harrington's comments. I generally support any council member that wants to ask for a reconsideration. I think that's important. But to the actual reconsideration and the postponement conversation, in the 3 minutes we had between when we stopped pre-meeting and when we started our regular council meeting, I did try to reach out to some of the parents and the teachers that have been talking to me. The two that I got a hold of can't be here tonight. And so I have serious heartburn about doing this right now. When I've personally been publicly telling people it was the 9th. That's when that should come back forward. That's when they should come back to council. And so all the other conversations aside about this item, that really bothers me. I think it's one thing, and certainly we have walk-on items and things that come in last minute, but I think we always try to use that discretion when it's of a major public interest and when it's not. And this is certainly a major public interest item. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And I appreciate the desire to get the conversation out of the way now. Councilmember Cumbie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also have been in conversation with both parents and two teachers and have reinforced to them September 9th as being the date that we would discuss this. And I feel that the public should have had more notice than just this meeting. So I have difficulty with the request. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Councilmember Gabriel.
Thanks, Mayor. I concur with your previous comments. I wouldn't be opposed to maybe a couple of weeks. I understand that the letter from the Albany County School District is before us and that they have given their blessing to this, and so they want to move a little bit quicker. And so, I wouldn't be opposed to a couple of weeks to let the public know that this is coming up, but certainly not tonight.
Thank you, Councilmember Gabriel. Other questions or comments about this? Let's see if there's public comment about this. Did it? All right. Seeing none, we'll close that. Council, anything else from you? Council members, I'd like to make a couple of quick points. We've solicited our own public comment on this, is what it seems like to me, which is fine. But we still don't have folks coming to the meeting to share the concerns that we have received ourselves. And that's all right. There's nothing particularly unusual about that. But if we're going to change, as Councilmember Gabriel has suggested, alter this schedule to sort of split the difference, that's still going to require an affirmative vote for the reconsideration and then to bring the next item forward and then amend it. So if that's what you want to do, we're still going to need to pass this if you want it to be modified. If you want to stick to where the council left at the last meeting, then you'll vote no, just to be clear. Seems like everybody's on board with that. So just so you understand where we're at with this, that's the kind of vote that it's going to have to take. We didn't have any other further discussion or questions about this. All right, and again, I think it's probably worth reiterating that what we received was a communication from the school district to the council and the city manager's office, which I believe was related on behalf of the University of Wyoming. That the school district has apparently considered the transportation impacts that the council's been concerned about, and the school district reported to us that they were aware of those and they weren't concerned about it. But those other concerns that have been raised remain. That's what it seems like to me. So anyway, just a summary of kind of where this is at. And I think we're ready for a vote now. And again, this is a vote on whether or not we're going to reconsider the item at all. City Clerk.
Cumby,
No.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
No.
and Weaver.
Yes.
That is 7 yeses and 2 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk and Council. The reconsideration motion is passed. Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you, I think. I recommend that we bring original ordinance 2048 back on the floor for future discussion.
Second.
Motion and a second for Councilmember Gabriel. Councilmember Somerville.
Point of order, Mayor. Doesn't this need to be the reconsideration of the postponement? This is not bringing the motion back on the floor. We need to move to the actual postponement motion now.
I think that's correct. Councilmember Schuster, you want to amend your motion?
The attorney has his hand up. Can we
Yes,
listen to him first?
City Attorney.
Then if
Thank
that's
you.
what I'm supposed to do, I sure will.
Yep, whatever we've got to do here. I think we had to vote to reconsider, which we did, and now we're at the reconsideration vote. But City Attorney, help us out.
Mayor, since the reconsideration motion passed, no action right now other than talking about the motion is back on the floor. The motion as written that says we move to postpone this to September, whatever the date is. So no further action right now other than discussion of that motion. It can be amended or not amended or voted down or whatever you want to do.
Thank you, City Attorney. So, Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just kick the discussion off, specifically the postponement motion. So not going over anything that we did a couple of weeks ago and into why we need the postponement, which I still firmly believe in. But second, in terms of this idea of maybe splitting the difference and moving the timetable up, as a parent of school-age kids, I want to remind the council what the schedule looks like. So the kids go back to school, I believe, on August 25th. That week before, I know personally, I have several, meet the teachers, school events, kind of things, sports registration going on at night. Then the following week is the week of August 29th through the 2nd. That's the first full week of school. And then we initially moved it to September 6th. As a parent, I will tell you that adding more into those first couple of weeks for school is going to be incredibly difficult. If we want the people that have been talking to all of us about concerns and teachers to be able to appear, I think we need to give them the time to be able to do it. And you would be looking at, short of calling a special meeting maybe next Tuesday and hoping people are in town. After that, the school activities are pretty heavy for a couple of weeks at night. So I don't know that we have an alternative date. And I apologize, I misspoke. I said September 9th. It's September 6th, I believe, is when we postpone that to. I don't think that there's a viable alternative, speaking as a parent of school-age kids.
Thank you, Councilmember Somerville. Any other questions or discussion? Yes, Councilmember O'Doherty.
My understanding that this was derived from an MOU a decade ago, and our council a decade ago signed this MOU. And as much as we don't like giving up part of another street, I think that it's bad to change the things that were set in motion because big institutions need a long time to plan. So I hope that if we have to postpone, it won't be much beyond our special meeting on August 30th. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Doherty. Other input from the council? Councilmember Schmeckel, and then I'll go to you, Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I have some questions for the university if they're here, and I see the attendee list here, so I know that Sam's here. I'm curious if they're currently selling any parking permits for any lots that would be closed by the construction process here. And if they are, how would postponing this by 6 weeks affect their plans?
Thank you, Mr. Councilmember Schmeckel. And I see that we've let Mr. Farstead in the meeting. I'm also going to call on Mr. Gabatuller to go ahead and engage with us and be ready for questions. I have one for him coming up. But for now, we'll go to Mr. Farstead on that specific permitting question, because that's more of a university question. Mr. Farstead, welcome back. Go ahead.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, thanks for your time and consideration this evening. Through you, Mayor, to Councilmember Schmeckel, that's so permits have been sold for all the Type A. Is it Type A? A permitting, however you say that, has been sold for the Union East lot, with the consideration for some spots that we're going to occupy for some construction field offices, etc. But that the parking consideration has been, I guess, asked and answered. All the permits that are available have been sold, and so the postponement, I can't think of a practical reason why that would affect. I hate to speak on behalf of the parking and transit group, but I don't think that would be material to their selling of parking permits. So, long answer to a short question. My apologies.
That's how it goes, Mr. Farstead. That's all right. Yes, follow up, Councilmember Schmeckel.
I'm specifically thinking of lot, I believe it's soon to be called Brown 105, that is directly north of the big gaping hole where Wyo Hall used to be. And if any permits have been sold for the east half of that lot, and if they have, and people are going to be parking here, I'd still like to know how closing off that street is necessary when there's still going to be people parking in that space.
So,
Mr. Farstead, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor, through you to Councilmember Schmetzer, can you help me? Would you say that again? North of Wyo Hall is the service building where I work, but to the west of us, there's the parking lot that used to be occupied by the parking and transit group, which now has moved to the new parking and transit facility on South 15th Street, correct? And so, if I'm understanding you correctly, if that's the lot you're referencing, spots have been sold for that lot too. That number has been, okay, I'm not understanding you correctly. Sorry.
I believe that Transit and Parking Services has a map that is publicly available online. That transit lot, I believe, is Brown 104, and that is north of the College of Education. Brown 105 is to the northeast of College of Education and to the north of where Wyo Hall used to be, kind of between your building and Wyo Hall.
Understood. Between my building and Wyo Hall. So that, sorry, Mayor, through you to Councilmember Schmetzer again. So that the parking lot that's directly was, I guess, directly north of Wyo Hall, we've got that the temporary fencing for the construction site still occupies 80% of that parking lot, just because it's not necessarily a safe place to be walking around right now. And so everything that remains there, though, Councilmember Schmeckel, that's been accounted for and sold. So everything that's I guess adjacent or north of the lab school, in the education annex, kind of roundabout drive, and then there is, don't quote me on this, but there's, I think, probably 17 or 18 spots directly north of where Wyo Hall used to be that have been included in that number of spots that are sold, as I understand it. Yeah, and those are going to remain the tentative schedule at this point. Well, if I may, Mayor, sorry, I was going to give further explanation that wasn't directly a part of that question. So, if, with your permission, I'll continue.
Council, you want to let Mr. Farstead go ahead and unpack this as much as he can for us? Go ahead, Mr. Farstead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I was going to say that the plan, as it now sits, based on what we know for the construction schedule and what what is possible for putting work in place during the fall semester. That was our coordination with the parking and transit group. They've got X amount of spots they can sell now for what we can capture and occupy for construction activities. Then the idea, of course, is that the new parking garage will become available for the spring semester, and then we would reconfigure our construction boundary to capture more space, and the spring semester spots would be sold accordingly, if that makes any sense at all.
It does. Thank you.
Any further follow-up, Councilmember Schmeckel, right now?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. Go to Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you. I really feel they've put the cart before the horse. I know that in the long-range plans, I believe where UWPD is, that was going to be another parking structure. And I so wish that they would do that parking structure before they start tearing anything else down, because they're going to run out of parking. It's really, really, really obvious. They're going to run out of parking. And the lab school, they're not worried about the lab school. That's the straight thing we were told a couple weeks ago, that basically the lab school is there, we're going to let it stay there, but it's not our biggest issue. Our biggest issue is to build the dorms. And I understand that, but am I happy with it? Absolutely not. But that's the way it is. The Albany County School District wrote us a letter and said, everything's great. They get to do what they want. And the university sent that to us, and we're reconsidering. Am I happy about it? No, I'm not. Because I really think they should be building parking before they build the structure, because it's going to be a nightmare there for years. So, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Council. Mr. Capitular, I've got a question for you. Has the university communicated to you their reasoning for requesting this new date, a reconsideration of postponement, and what the urgency is, in a way that you can share that with the council?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I will defer to Mr. Farstead as to, we had conversations, and I'll let him speak to that if that's okay.
Yep, just trying to give Mr. Farstead a break, but you're back on the hot seat. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. No, Honorable Mayor, in response to your question, the priority, or the motivation to accelerate this it just has to do with site safety and logistics more than anything else, because the coordination of construction activity starts with the North Hall, which is closest to that 14th to 15th Street section of Lewis. And we're going to be start with some site clearing and some deep foundation work. And ideally, we would try to capture that street section with a hard construction boundary, fencing, some K-rails, something like that, just to keep people as far away from overhead activity and deep foundation work, drilling, etc., as is possible. So it's just a safety thing. We're working towards the bid opening for the trade packages. We're going to hope to have GMP and a finalization of a construction contract here in the next 6 weeks, and we'd like to mobilize and start as soon as possible to take advantage of the remainder of our construction season. So it really is just limiting traffic and keeping it as safe as possible. And our concern is that if the second reading is on the 6th of September, and then the third and final, presuming that the second reading passes, would then be the last business meeting of September. It gets a lot closer to the time horizon we're working within, and it's also going to be more challenging to try to retrain some of the traffic patterns at that point, when it'd be easier to establish that perimeter prior to the initial couple weeks of school was the main motivation.
Seems to me that the practical effect would just be to delay the disruption as opposed to having it at the beginning of the school year. It would happen towards the end of the first, well, essentially within the first month of school coming back. Councilmember Schmeckel.
Thank you, Mayor. I have sent the clerk a link to the parking map that might give some illumination here as to some of my questions and some clarification. I'm curious if the clerk could pull that up. And I want to build off of Mr. Farstad's comments here about safety. I agree that safety is a primary concern that should be considered here. So we may have to zoom in a bit here. And I am not seeing, is this the same? I don't believe this is the same link I have sent you, clerk.
Give the clerk a minute to look through. I think that cut off the part of the map probably wanted to show us.
Yeah.
And Honorable Mayor, if I may, I'd like to, I was pondering this while the parking map flashed in front of me there for a second. I wanted to respond to Councilmember Schuster's statement earlier too, if with permission. I had thought about, so through you, Mayor, to Councilmember Schuster, the component, I really appreciate your comment, Councilmember Schuster. And I think it's important to remember that I guess our charge here is revolves around House Bill 293 in terms of the location for this new housing project. But the part of that language says that the parking shall not be reduced. That's our charge, right? Which is why sequentially we're going to get the new parking garage off of Grand Avenue, between 10th and 11th complete before we reduce any more parking than is actually needed in the East Union lot. And we are actually working to create even more parking than was sold in the initial, I guess, fall semester offering on the north side of campus. We've acquired some more property, and we're as fast as we can, we're trying to put in place some more temporary accommodations for this project specifically, but looking towards the future as well. So I wanted to respond, Councilmember Schuster, because I think that's important for everybody here and anybody else that's listening. So.
Thank you, Mr. Farstad. It's understood. And I see that Matt Newman's joined us. Mr. Newman, I'm right in the middle of a line of questioning from Councilmember Schmeckel, but as you're here, Mr. Newman, of course, you'll be given an opportunity to answer questions and help provide information as well. Councilmember Schmeckel, you've got the floor. Maybe we have the map situation lined out.
Thank you, Mayor. Clerk? Perfect. So on this map, it lists Zone 105. So if we're concerned about safety, why do we need to close off the area between the service building and this lot right here for the sake of safety if the lot's going to be open in December of 2022?
Okay, I guess that's a question for whoever wants to answer it, and whoever is Mr. Newman or Mr. Farstad.
Hold on.
Can you see the map that we're referencing, Mr. Farstad?
No, I'm looking. Sorry, Honorable Mayor. Give me just a second to ponder that question. No, I'm happy to pick.
Point of order. Councilmember O'Doherty.
Point of information. The map that I pulled up, the current map, does not show that Zone 105 in the lined area. So I don't know if the university's advertising both of those spots. Thanks.
So the university might be advertising both of these. I've pulled this up from the website. So the link I have is displayed up there at the top.
So, if I may,
yes, please go ahead.
You're waiting for somebody to respond, aren't you? I was going to sit here awkwardly for a little while longer, but
we would too. That's all right. Might as well go ahead.
So through you to Councilmember Schmeckel. So you caught us in an awkward scenario here because what we're looking at is not the most current. That zone 105 we're not selling that. We've got a conflict in documents, and Councilmember O'Doherty, what you saw is correct. We're not selling those spots, which is why, back to my point about the safety and access limitation, that closing that section of Lewis Street would be of benefit. We're going to need to make that reparation on our website. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And we'll keep this line of questioning open for just a second as we keep getting information. Mr. Newman, go ahead. I saw you'd like to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add in that another part of the schedule has to do with the site plan submittal that the city staff is currently reviewing. And this vacation is a part of that process. And so, that's part of our concern on this, is that if it is continued to, be delayed into September, it's that site plan process and getting that approval that is part of the consideration or concern on our part as well. And I'll have to, I think we need to follow up probably just to verify that comment that we made about the parking lot. I think that Mr. Farstad is correct, but we can follow up on that just to verify that if it's helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Yeah, it does seem important to some different elements of the conversation here. Other questions or comments for university folks or Mr. Gavitt or Councilmember O'Doherty? Did I see you with the hand? Okay, I'll go back to Councilmember Somerville.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, my comment is not for any of the guests. I can hold off if you want me to.
All right. Since you've offered, is there before we get into comments, and we'll probably allow responses to comments as well. Do we have any questions? Any questions? All right, Councilmember Somerville, why don't you go ahead? Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm listening to the concerns from UW, and I'm not deaf to them at all. Certainly safety is a huge concern when you're dealing with this size of a project, and I appreciate the due diligence that the university takes into consideration. I'm struggling, however, to hear that they're 6 weeks out from finalizing bid docs and doing all of that stuff, but we need the vacation right now. If we pass second reading tonight and then move to third reading, that gets them out of here in a couple of weeks, but they still won't have all of their stuff done. So I'm struggling with trying to put all these timelines together. I don't want to rehash everything that's been said, but I think where I'm coming from is the university has a job to do, and I appreciate it and I support them. But as a council member, I have a job to do too. And I think that the council does in general, which is to represent our constituents that have contacted us and have given us information. And they are asking us for another opportunity to come in, and we have shared that opportunity with them, and to kind of bait and switch right now and put the onus on moving the game pieces, so to say, so that they might be deprived of sharing their feelings with council seems disingenuous. I also have substantial concern that if we don't listen to the concerns of the parents and teachers, and we don't seriously talk about traffic patterns up there and what we might be able to do differently, it'll be the city that'll be on the hook, that'll be getting the angry notes from the parents, just like we did at 22nd and Reynolds and in other areas, because although our job is not to run the schools, we are required to maintain those streets and safe access. And so I appreciate what the university is doing, but I really feel like our job is to make sure that these people have a say. And so I'm going to ask the council to go ahead and vote again to sustain the postponement until September 6th. And we'll work with the university. I don't see any reason why, if we have our meeting on the 6th, we couldn't accelerate third reading to help the university out on the back end. If everybody is agreeable to that, I think that sounds like a better plan than moving the postponement again. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Harrington.
Thank you, Mayor. I think maybe I just have two procedural questions. The first, and I apologize, Council, because I missed the previous meeting on this item, so I apologize for wasting your time with catch-up. But we are on second reading at this point, right? We are reconsidering a postponement for second reading. Is that correct?
That's right.
So there still would be time for the public to weigh in if necessary. And, you know, I don't mean to belittle the points previously made. Those are obviously good points. I ask, Mayor, because I have received zero communication from the public regarding this. And so I'm, you know, that might be sort of like the networks we all run in. You know, the previous speaker certainly has school age kids. I do not. So that may be as easily explained as that. But you know, I feel like we have an MOU that says we are willing to do this. We are committed to doing this. So to stall it at this point feels problematic to me. I can understand the sort of competing situation here, but that would be my take on that. And then my question to you, Mr. Mayor, is because we are reconsidering a postponement, a yes vote would be to affirm the postponement. A no vote would be to hold a second vote on second reading, correct?
Yeah, or potentially even at this point, Councilmember Harrington, we could consider an amendment to the motion on the floor now to change the date. That's another option here, which I think is one that we've at least put out there in the atmosphere for consideration, if that helps you. So that's another option, is that we would change the date of postponement. I don't know if that further confuses the issue for you, but.
No, Mr. Mayor, it doesn't. I just wanted to be sure I was thinking about this correct, that an affirmative vote on this would be to affirm the postponement to the date that it was previously postponed to. So I think I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I see Councilmember Schuster following this part of the conversation too. I think Councilmember Schuster, at this point, we're still talking about we reopened the postponement, and so we're under reconsideration, but nobody's introduced anything to change it yet. So if you wanted to kill postponement completely, you'd vote no. If you wanted to keep it as it was, you'd vote yes, or somebody might introduce an amendment to change the postponement date, in which case you'd want to vote yes. So there's kind of a choose your own adventure with three options. Are you following that as well, Councilmember Schuster? Since this is your motion, I think we need to chat.
I don't believe so, but I talked to the city clerk because all I did was reintroduce it.
Right.
So if people vote no, it would go back to the September thing. If people vote yes to rediscuss it, then a new date or voting on this object is how I see it. But I would want to ask the city clerk before I made too big a conversation, because I only brought it back on the floor. I did not try to change any dates yet, just for discussion.
That's right. You haven't tried. You have. So, there's been no change to the date yet.
Right. So if people vote no, then it just dies right here and comes back in September, is my understanding. But I guess maybe I need the city attorney.
You're right. You're right, Councilmember Schuster. If we vote no, then it stays the way it was.
Yes, correct. That's the way I thought.
Point of information, Mayor. I feel like that is the opposite of what I just heard.
All right. What I'm trying to establish for us is the following. If you vote yes, you are saying that you want to postpone to the existing date. In other words, the one that exists in the motion right now, which is the same one that the council voted yes to postpone to the last time we took this topic up. So nothing changes between the last meeting and this one. We just had more discussion about it. If you were to vote no, it would revert back to the old date that existed before the postponement. Or you could vote to change the date through an amendment. That's my understanding, and I'm sorry for any confusion. City Clerk, am I correct in that summary?
Yeah, I think a way to maybe explain it is if you have your main motion, which was the second reading, then you made the postponement motion, and then that postponed it to September 6th. So right now, if, like you said, a yes vote keeps September 6th, a no vote would revert it back to the main motion to approve second reading.
Right. Or a third option is to amend it to change the postponement date since we're debating the postponement now.
Correct.
So, Councilmember Harrington, I want to make sure, and Councilmember Schuster, I want to make sure people understand where we're at. If I clouded the issue for either of you, I apologize. Councilmember Schuster, are you all right?
When we vote on it, I'll want people to state it one more time so that there's no confusion on how people are voting, because that's my biggest concern is, just like Councilor Harrington is saying, let's be absolutely certain what we're doing.
Yeah, we'll restate it before the clerk does the roll call, but I think we've got some more discussion to go. Councilmember O'Doherty, thanks for waiting.
Yeah, this is about the discussion of postponement. I think that the reason we haven't heard public comment on this is that if you are a school teacher, the school district is your boss. And the school district just said, it's fine with us. So it's not realistic to expect people to come to a public meeting and say, we oppose what our boss has said. So that may be why we're getting behind the scenes chatter directly to counselors. On the other hand, I can assure you that every parent except for Mr. Gabatuller is going to oppose having it get any more crowded. But it seems to me that postponement was too far in the future. There's a month and a half since it's considered, and people live in Laramie. They're not all leaving on that last, not everybody is busy every single night. People have time to make comments to the council, and that, I just feel like the postponement to September 6th is a long way out, and that we could consider it at our next regular meeting.
Thank you. Councilmember Gabriel.
And that exactly was going to be my motion, to move that we reconsider original ordinance 2048 on second reading to August 16th.
I'll second that if that's an amendment to the postponement movement.
All right, so we've got a motion to amend the motion on the floor, which is the postponement, to now change the date. I'd like to go to the city attorney.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to make it absolutely clear that that's a motion to amend the motion on the floor. The motion on the floor sets the hearing on second reading for September 6th. And if this is a motion to amend, we're just amending that date in the motion on the floor.
That's my understanding, but I appreciate the clarification, city attorney. Again, we want to make sure people are absolutely clear on the votes. City manager.
Mayor and Council, I would note for your record on the amendment, Mr. Gabriel's moved that the Council will not meet on the 16th due to the primary election. Your date's moved to the 17th. So I know we were accustomed to Tuesday, but that week it's going to be Wednesday.
Would you like to modify your motion, Councilmember Gabriel, to the 17th?
I appreciate that, City Manager. I would amend to the 17th of 2022.
Second.
Second concurs. Thank you both. And thank you, city manager and city attorney. All right. So discussion on the amendment. Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to note for the council, I think Wednesdays are usually school board meeting nights. So if we do decide to move this forward, I wonder if there's not some synergy there, I guess, that we can utilize, but maybe coordinate with the school board so we don't have conflicting meetings.
Thank you, Councilmember Somerville. I believe their meetings start at 7, but I'm not positive. City
I
Manager,
will look quick.
City Manager, you still have your hand up. Is that just a leftover? Okay, looks like it. All right. Other discussion? Okay. I'd like to ask you, City Manager.
Thanks, Council. I just wanted to offer, I did just pull up the school board calendar, and it does appear to me that the Board of Trustees do not meet on that Wednesday. They meet the previous 2 Wednesdays based on what's published online. Just a point of information.
Sure. When do those meetings start, by the way, since you have that right in front of you?
Let's see.
Just
6
in case they
o'clock on
decide
the 3rd,
Okay,
7 o'clock on the 10th. There is no meeting the week that you are considering, or the following or last week of the month. And that's from their website. I just pulled it.
I appreciate that. The reason I asked
Make
you to
sure we're not conflicting.
Right. And the reason I asked for the clarification is in case they add a special meeting or a work session or something. You never know. I have a question, Mr. Gabatuller, which is about this MOU that's been raised in this discussion, both previously and tonight. That was the basis for the city's implied agreement. That MOU was put in place, my understanding from the discussion last time, was put in place when the location of the lab school was, I guess we'll say in flux. It was proposed to be perhaps at a different location in documents that were available at the time of that MOU. I just want to clarify that that's correct.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, yes, the process started in 2014. So, based on the conversation at the last meeting, yes, there was some discussion to move the school, but I believe that was in the last 2 years. So the answer is yes. I mean,
so in 2014, there wasn't any discussion about the school being relocated. I guess that's sort of the crux of my question: is when the city agreed to the MOU, was the school's location where it is today, or was it possible that it was going to be relocated? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Mr. Mayor, I will have to get back to council on that. I don't have information on that at this point.
Mr. Farstead, do you have anything for me on that, or Mr. Newman? Whoever.
Honorable Mayor, or I'm waiting for Matt to give me a sign here if he wants to go first.
Yeah, either way, guys, it's all right.
If you have a good answer, give it, because I don't have a good answer.
I have an answer. I'll let council and the mayor determine whether it's good or not. But the 2014 MOU, Honorable Mayor, it makes no material reference to the location of the lab school. It just clearly lays out stipulations related to utility relocations and property ownership with which to align the requirements to make the vacations possible. And then the MCER, I think the most cost-effective remedy, that was the considered 2020, 2021, where the school district with the state construction group got together to look at what are our options, understanding that the lab school is not ideally situated, I guess. And the options, one of the graphics that we showed in the last meeting, whenever that was a couple weeks ago, showed that the title solution, the most cost-effective remedy, was to leave the school where it's at and maintain access through 14th Street. It clearly showed this section of Lewis Street being vacated, but it also aligned with our long-term goals, which was moving the parking and transit, moving all of our buses out of there, moving our parking and transit facility, expanding our parking to the north of Lewis and into the Bradley Street corridor, which we've done all of that. So there's so many moving parts. it's a hard question to answer directly, but that's, like I said, I'll let you judge whether that was a good answer or not, but thank you.
Yeah, but I just want to make sure that I interpreted that correctly. There wasn't anything concrete indicating either way at the time of that MOU, whether the school would remain in location or not. There was a possibility either way, is what I think I understood from that. City Manager, would you like to chime in?
Mayor and Council, just in way of providing some history to the original iteration of the agreement, I did negotiate that with then Mike Massey, representing the University of Wyoming Governmental Relations Committee, or excuse me, office, not committee. And there, at that point in time, I also happened to be a lab school mom. So I do not recall any conversation at that time about the school relocating, other than the aspirations that seem to have existed amongst the school community of lab school for decades, long before I was a mom there, and probably long after I have ceased to be a mom there a few years ago. I will say, though, that as just to sort of shore up what Sam said, there has been that discussion kind of circulating in a more robust way versus the just sort of undertone in the community that's persisted for decades in the last few years, when we have amended, when we've added the 2 amendments to the original Lewis Street agreement, excuse me. I think those were in 21, and recently, I think early of this year, if I remember right. They might be in your packet. I haven't pulled them up, but they are there. So it's been within the realm of our consideration, I guess, is what I would offer, but much recently and not historically.
Yeah, I appreciate that also. It's just a little bit of context here. I remember there was discussion about it, but I think it was unofficial, or maybe just, I won't even say unofficial, it was just conceptual, and then it was sort of hammered out more concretely in the last couple of years when the most cost-effective remedy issue was resolved, and it was determined that the school remaining in place was going to be removed. Okay, Council, that was my question answered, and if you'll please allow it, I have kind of a comment / question, and it's for you. It's for us as the members of the council. Here's what I'm struggling with. I see a couple of competing issues. We want to try to alleviate disruption for faculty and parents that we perceive and have heard there are concerns about regarding the vacation and the changes that that's going to create for picking up kids, dropping off kids, getting to work and leaving work, that we think are going to be created by this vacation and the work that's planned for UW. I hear that loud and clear, and I understand that. I think that's reasonable enough to take that input and say, okay, maybe we need to try to do something about that. But I don't see a big list of remedies for that. What I see us doing is postponing the approval of this till later, and I'm not sure how that disruption later in the school year into September achieves the goals of the former point, which is to try to limit disruption for the families, children, faculty, and staff. I think it's still going to happen. It'll just happen later, and I don't know that that's any better than getting it in place before the beginning of the school year, rather than having those same interest groups starting the school year in a more regular way, and then later at the end of the month having to deal with those same disruptions we've been concerned about. So I'm interested in views on that, because that's what I'm struggling with. I don't see what this really achieves, and what I see is that we've committed through an MOU process several years ago to moving forward with the vacation. So that's the difficulty for me, and I don't like anything about this discussion. I don't like being put in this position whatsoever. Councilmember Somerville, maybe you have some points here.
Mayor, just to speak to your question directly, so 2 quick points. So we keep talking about this MOU, which I appreciate, which I've been in a lot of those discussions. However, everybody keeps forgetting a key point, and that is in Amendment 2 that I believe was signed in January of 2022. It says the City Council may consider this piecemeal type vacation. We are not required to. We may consider it because UW does not have all the properties, etc. So I think that that's really important. We keep talking about being forced into this. We may consider it. Second is in terms of the disruption in the school year, as a parent, and I don't know if I'm the only council member that's got school age kids right now, but it doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks before school or 2 weeks into school or 4 weeks into school. The first 6 weeks of school is insane. It's crazy. Activities, sports, kids, new schools, the whole 9 yards. So I'm really struggling. It just as a parent where we're potentially lessening the burden. Where I see the advantage is we are giving the ability for these parents to become engaged and have discussions with their school and bring that information back to the council. Because I think that helps us do better long-term planning. And if there are things that we need to mitigate, it would be better to know them now than having a room full of angry people here in about 2 months when everything has gone awry, which, as we've discussed in previous meetings, is certainly possible given the traffic constraints there. So as a parent, I'll tell you, I would stress, it doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks before or 4 weeks into the school year. It's all kind of crazy.
Thank you. Other discussion or questions even still? Yes, Councilmember O'Doherty.
But it sounds like the proposal would involve doing construction while kids are running around as opposed to doing it before kids are running around. So I can see the benefit of having the fencing put up before we have a bunch of children in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Doherty. Other questions or comments before I go back to Councilmember Somerville? Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add so that everybody knows there are already kids at the lab school. They're running summer school programs right now. There's already people there. So I don't know that it matters if we're doing it now or later.
I guess my response to that would be the number, would be the difference, the number of kids. Yeah, this has turned into a very difficult conversation. And I haven't heard anything that's really resolved any of the issues from the last time. I'll say this, I do not perceive a possible future where the city denies this vacation, but maybe I'm wrong. But that seems to me that that's a whole different conversation as opposed to the one that we're having right now, which is going forward with an agreement that we had in place. It may say May, sure, but I think a whole lot of planning and strategy has gone in place around the understanding that was going to happen. Maybe that was wrong, but that's the situation that we're facing. Councilmember Harrington.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I feel like I'm coming into the middle of a pretty lengthy and long conversation that I'm maybe slightly underprepared for. But, I think largely I don't know that would have changed my opinion. I think what we keep coming back to is the complication of this conversation, and the reason making it such a challenge for us to make any decisions here is that it is a pretty dynamic and complicated situation. I am not sure. While I can understand that our job is to represent our constituents, many of which are parents with lab school students, I'm not. I think to assume that anyone here is trying to do something against the best interest of those students is maybe the wrong perspective. I think us. I think maybe what we have to do, in my opinion, Mr. Mayor, and will inform my vote, is that the best course of action is to trust the folks who spend every day navigating these conversations, and with the appreciation that they are not attempting to certainly risk the health and safety of students on their campus. So, I'm likely to vote no on the amendment and no on the postponement to just have a second reading this evening. I don't know that is the popular opinion, but that's where I'm at, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, appreciate being upfront with the opinion and sympathize with your comments about the difficulty of the discussion. Vice Mayor Pierce.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We've been wavering a bit away from the amendment on the floor. So I'm just going to call the question.
That does require a second.
Second.
So we will have a 2/3 vote. It will require a 2/3 vote to end the discussion and then immediately vote on the topic that we've been discussing. This is a non-debatable motion. City Clerk?
And just remind folks, Mayor, that this is on the amendment to change the date to the 17th.
Correct, this is on.
Wait, this is point of information. First, we have to vote to call the question.
Correct, which requires a 2/3 vote. Then that ends the discussion and we'll go directly to Councilmember Gabriel's vote to postpone to the date of the 17th of August. And then, depending on the outcome of that vote, we're right back into the discussion on the postponement. Correct. Okay, City Clerk?
Cumby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
No.
That is 8 yeses and 1 no, Your Honor.
That motion carries. We now have to proceed to a vote on Councilmember Gabriel's motion. City Clerk?
Somerville,
Yes.
Schuster,
No.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Harrington,
No.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Cumby,
Yes.
Pierce,
No.
and Weaver.
No.
That is 5 yeses and 4 no, Your Honor.
And that motion carries. And the date is postponed to August 17th, Wednesday. That's the only thing different about that day. Wednesday. Okay. All right. That, council members, takes us to item number 16. Public comments on non-agenda items.
Mayor,
Yes.
Sam has something, I think.
Oh, Mr. Farstead? That motion's been disposed of, but we'll go ahead since you've been with us patiently this evening.
Honorable Mayor, I really appreciate it. I wanted to, I was going to ask a question before I got shut off because you get put, you're not a panelist anymore. And my question was, is there an opportunity, is there still something at the end of the meeting where I can represent myself as a member of the public just to make a comment, or did I totally miss that?
No, it's coming right up. It's
okay, I'm sorry.
Right up.
My apologies.
But if it's on this topic, that's a no-go.
It's not on the topic of postponement. It's on the topic of public school, generally speaking. Would that be appropriate?
I think we're going to say that it is, because it's up to us really to say that. And I think we're going to say that it is.
That's fantastic.
I'm going to go to the city attorney real quickly, Councilmember Harrington, before I go over to you.
Mayor, I will defer to the city clerk, but I believe all that you have done so far is amend the motion to postpone to make the postponement until August 17th.
Correct.
So that's what the motion on the floor looks like, and now it has to be decided.
We have a third vote, is what the city attorney is telling us. I thought it went into place. I thought the motion to postpone was the primary motion, and we just did it. You're saying we need to have another vote?
You just amended the motion to postpone, and now it's back on the floor with the amendment in place to have it read August 17th.
I see, which is debatable, and will allow for public comment, Mr. Farstad, if you're interested in getting out of here before, midnight. Any discussion on the motion as amended? Any discussion on the motion as amended? Okay. My discussion is this. I made a comment about trying to split the difference, and it looks like that's where the council landed after an hour of painful discussion. So good, I guess. Is there any comment on this motion? Public comment on this motion? That I'm also calling for you. Okay, Mr. Farstad, looks like you're the only one. Go ahead.
Honorable Mayor, I really appreciate it. My comment is this. I'll keep it as simple as possible. I really like to talk, but I think it's important to remember that this is a lottery school. This is a special learning opportunity for parents who are really see this as adding value to their kids' education. And that's important to me because I took a lottery opportunity with my kids, both of them, to go into the dual language immersion program, and it's been a rocky road. My son he had the lottery in 3 times. He had to switch teachers. He's had to move schools. He had to be without school transportation during COVID, and I had no issue with any of that because I believe in that path. I believe in that educational opportunity. I'm a parent that chose to put my kid in a lottery, different learning environment, and I would drive him to Cheyenne every day because of that, right? So I think it's really important to remember the lab school is a lottery school. It's a great opportunity. Sometimes great opportunities come with a little bit more inconvenience. And I can tell you, I love working for the U, but parking at the U, it's inconvenient. That's it. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Mr. Farstad, for your time with us this evening on this topic. Any other questions or discussion here? We still have Mr. Farstad with us. We still have Mr. Newman with us. I have a comment, which is before we get to this item on the 17th, I'd like some information about, I'd like to see if there's an opportunity to get some more background on this MOU and controlling features of that MOU on our decision making here. It doesn't need to be right now. I just want some follow up with that. Mr. Southern, go ahead, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll send you the MOUs and tell you anything you want to know about them.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you, City Attorney. Any other discussion? We're going to go to public comment on the vote on the motion as amended. Further public comment. I think we got some. Doesn't look like it. Yes, Councilmember Schmeckel.
Thank you, Mayor. I will bring up our last time we discussed this. I asked for a plan for how the university is going to be communicating with the parents when the school opened. I would just generally love to see any documents they might have together for our next meeting here for our consideration, and just to be aware that they actually have a plan and they're ready to implement it.
Questions and comments from the council before we go to the vote? Last call. City Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Cumby,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Harrington,
No.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Pierce,
No.
and Weaver.
Yes.
That is 7 yeses and 2 no, Your Honor.
The motion carries. Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Council. That brings us now to public comment on non-agenda items. And, we'll entertain council comment as well, I think. Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you very much. It has nothing to do with what we just talked about, but the grand opening or the ribbon cutting on Slade School is coming up this month. I contacted them because I went to Slade School. That really is going to shock some people. And it will be August 12th at 10 a.m. And I talked to them by phone, and they are sending every council member an invitation. So I've kind of already accepted mine. So just to let you know it's coming. It's where a lot of people are going to be voting in the primary election. But I kind of, wanted to go the ribbon cutting being a Slade School graduate. So thank you for letting me do the public comment.
Sure. I don't know if I mentioned this last time. I went to the lab school. It was 100 years ago. Not the 250 years ago when you were going to Slade, but it was 100 years ago. You know, there used to be a, and this is only just in good humor for the council members. There used to be a street open to traffic that went right in front of that school. You know, it was a through street and then around to parking all the way around Prexy's in front of that. Anyway, that was back in the day. Councilmember Booth was not. Okay, let's see if we have any other public comment or council comment even, why not, on anything. City Manager, I saw you switch on for us. Did you have something you want to share with the council? Okay. All right. And then we've got our consideration of future council work session topics and upcoming meetings. Council, over to you. Any comments or commentary on that? You'll see that there's been some a little bit of firming up on the calendar around that, and that's good. I appreciate your flexibility with meeting times. And including some of those, like the city manager told us at the beginning of the meeting, we have some things we're going to need to include, and we'll have a couple of different meeting dates, which we just heard about coming up this month. Time flies, August already. Yikes. Councilmember Cumby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I'm kind of out there around the city, I get a number of questions about the formation of the Police Community Relations Board, or whatever it would be called. And in that meeting we had, we did agree that we were going to form a board. And the question I'm getting is, what is that process? When is it going to happen? And I'm just wondering if that requires a work session, or what's required for us to move forward with the formation of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that open-ended for staff to get back to you at a later date? Follow up?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But it is a frequent question, so I'd like to be able to kind of give them an accurate answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I'm sure we'll get the follow-up on that. Any other questions about upcoming meetings or work session topics? Anybody want to add any, because you feel like we have an infinite amount of time in the next 5 months? All right. Yes, Councilmember O'Doherty.
Can we make a public service announcement that city council elections are on everybody's ballot, regardless of your party or if you're unaffiliated, and bring your ID to the polls? Thanks.
Yes. public service announcement. And I think there's a couple of other offices that are included in that as well. Although I know the school board district districts follow a slightly different calendar, but I'm not sure about the conservation districts, if those are on the August ballot or not. But those are also nonpartisan. Okay, I don't see any other commentary and no pending business on the agenda. Councilmember Schuster, call on you for item number 18.
Thank you very much. Sorry for opening the can of worms. I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Apology is, of course, accepted. I don't think anybody blames you, Councilmember Schuster. We are adjourned. If you all raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Aye.